You are listening to the Billy D's podcast. We are waiting just a minute for everyone to engage the live stream. Remember, you can find the Billy D's podcast on your favorite platform.
All right. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the program. So glad that you are here. Yeah, I got some little tempo there.
I'm excited.
Cynthia's excited. Hey, I'll tell you what. If you're new to the program here, you're new to the live stream, we always wait just a moment for everybody to, lock onto the live stream. Sometimes people have to refresh their browser, their app, or whatever it is they got going on. And then I pause just a moment. And then we start the podcast. It's pretty much that simple. My co-host on Thursday nights is Cynthia Elliott. Cynthia, how are you dancing over there?
I'm good. I feel good. I went to yoga. I'm a little tired, but it's got me extra spicy tonight. So beware.
Extra spicy. Well, you're spicy enough as it is. I better look out. All right.
You're like the extinguisher.
We'll pause just a moment and then we'll get right into it. All right. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the program. As always, I am absolutely thrilled that you are here. If you are new to the podcast, we are primarily an interview and a commentary-based podcast. You can find the Billy D's podcast pretty much anywhere podcasts are found. Thursday night, we go live. We do commentary, opinion, just banter around a little bit about current events. My co-host for Thursday nights, Cynthia Elliott. Shaman Isis on X. How are you?
Hey, Billy. I'm great. I'm psyched for tonight's show. There's just so much juicy stuff going on in the world right now.
Lots of juicy stuff for sure. We're going to talk about Kamala Harris. We're going to talk about Joe Biden and a number of other things. The Secret Service situation, Director Cheadle resigned this past week. And I got to tell you, it was really strange watching the news come out about the Secret Service. What did you do? Were you surprised by that?
Yes, I was. I've worked with the Secret Service several times, and I really liked them. I had a lot of respect for them and their behavior. They were just very composed, very present, very sharp. I was disturbed. I was disturbed when as soon as I saw the video, I was like, that took way too long for them to actually get to him. That took too long. The number of shots, like there was just so many things that immediately were bothering me. And then to find out that she got her job because of Joe Biden, like what the hell are politicians? Politicians should not be choosing the heads of important organizations, not like that. I mean, that's supposed to be something where they work their way up, they get lots of experience, but having the president's wife cherry pick the head of the Secret Service seems incestuous.
Yeah, it seems odd. And there was a number of things that stuck out. One thing, the obvious one was how they let that rooftop go uncovered. Now, there were several different stories about this, one of which was that she delegated that to the local police department. Now, the only thing I can say about that is that's fine. I understand. I have a couple of friends that are police. Some of them are high ranking, and they very often got roped into helping the Secret Service anytime a high visible, politician came into town. And they've kind of briefed me on how that works. And I got to tell you, if you're going to delegate something of that importance, like, hey, there's a rooftop up there and some bitch might be up there with a rifle.
Yeah.
Hey, let's get the local police to stand guard on the roof. That's great. But you better make sure that box gets checked. You better make sure that it actually gets done. You just don't delegate something like that and then, go to McDonald's and go through the drive-thru and forget about it. So that was one thing. The other thing that kind of caught my attention was the distance in terms of proximity of that roof being close was well within the range of most rifles. Now, I've fired long range rifles, bolt actions, like the ones you shoot really far with.
Mhm.
But I don't have a whole lot of experience with that AR-15 style rifle, but I do know that those bullets can go pretty far as well. Not as far as some of those ones where that snipers use in the military, but they're pretty accurate at quite the distance. And I got to give credit where credit is due. I'm going to play a clip here for you. This clip has Nancy Mace, Representative Nancy Mace, grilling the Secret Service director. And then this clip also has AOC. And the reason that I'm putting AOC in here and I'm mentioning her is because, obviously we pick on her a lot. She's, a left wing person, and if you're new to the show here, again, I'm not right wing either. The right wing politicians get my ire as well, but she asked a fabulous question, an absolute fabulous question, and we're objective here, and you got to give credit where credit is due. She asked that director a very good question. Here's the two clips: Nancy Mace and AOC.
Have you provided all audio and video recordings in your possession to this committee, as we asked on July 15th, yes or no?
I would have to get back to you.
That is a no. You're full of shit today. You're just being completely dishonest.
Mr. Chairman,
Completely dishonest.
Mr. Chairman, I want to.
Come on.
We have to maintain decorum in this committee, no matter how
have you provided
upset we
any
get.
and all memos to this committee that we've asked you on July 15th? Have you provided all memorandums within the Secret Service?
How far away was that building from the president?
It was approximately 200 yards.
200 yards. Now, the individual used an AR-15 in order to act out his assassination attempt. An AR-15 has a range of about 400 to 600 yards. My question is, why does the Secret Service perimeter, why is the Secret Service protective perimeter shorter than one of the most popular semi-automatic weapons in the United States?
That was a good question. And
Yeah, it sounded like it was written for her. I'm just being just having listened to her enough. That's not the way she speaks.
Okay, well, that's fair enough.
It's a great question, and part of the job of being a good politician is cherry picking the things that actually are relevant, and that is actually relevant. So I don't care if she wrote it herself or not. The whole thing is just it is nearly impossible to know what we know about that day and the epic number of failures that are standard operating procedure as far as my understanding and how to protect someone as important as a former president.
Yeah.
It is nearly impossible not to believe that people were involved, that the government, not the government specifically, because that's like saying, the country of America. It doesn't really work that way. That there were a number of people in the government that colluded together to try to kill Trump, especially after what was happening with Biden. Like the timing of it, like it is just nearly impossible that this was not an organized attempt. And I don't think it's about, and I said this in the last episode, I do not think that the assassination attempt on him is necessarily about being Democrat or Republican. It's about keeping him out of the White House because he will spill the secrets. It's an appalling failure on the Secret Service's part, and when you find out that she was buddies with Jill Biden, which what is a sitting president's wife, or just even when it's an organization that protects multiple people within the two primary parties and our independents, because this is what the Secret Service does. How can someone in one of those parties be responsible for appointing basically the head of that agency? That just seems so corrupt to me. And look what happened. She was completely inept with her job, or she just failed at killing Trump.
Yeah. I don't quite, first of all, I at this point, I can't ever say never about anything. So, and you're not alone in those ideas about what happened. I am usually a little skeptical when it comes to conspiracy theories. When you see the picture of this shooter, this guy looks like every hard up loser he looks just like the guy that shot up the movie theater. He looks just like the guy that opened fire in Arizona a number of years ago, hitting one of our governmental officials. He looks just like the loser that shot up the nightclub. These are young men that, quite frankly, looks like they've never been laid a day in their life. They're very isolated. They're odd individuals. They're social outcasts. I don't know if he was picked on or not, but that's not the point. This was a strange person. And if you look at history, Oswald was a nutcase. In my hometown, one of the nicest presidential monuments you'll ever go to is the McKinley Monument. And McKinley was shot by a goof, and it's I don't know if it's maybe the idea that somebody so powerful and influential can be taken down by a nutcase. Maybe that's something that goes against our psyche. But I can tell you that history is just loaded full of examples where some loser, some person is just not happy with the world, finds his way through the cracks. And there was a lot of cracks. There was a lot of cracks at this shooting. There's no doubt about that.
The thing that really bothers me about that whole thing is the distance of the rooftop. It's not even about how distance of the perimeter, because anybody worth their salt. Like whenever I had jobs to do, if I had a big major event, I never assumed that anybody I hired and assigned to do something was going to actually do what they were supposed to.
Exactly.
I never left the responsibility of my ultimate job, which was to make sure it was an incredible event that everybody had a wonderful time at the doorstep of anybody, so that the whole thing didn't collapse because one person didn't do their job. But when you look at the number of, this kid had been there for a very long time. He was seen meandering around the building. Like there were so many moments in which he should have been caught, and there were many people aware. There were minutes after he was spotted with a gun that they did nothing. And I mean, when you look at all of that collectively, it really does reek of a conspiracy.
Yeah. There was a lot of things. Now, the one thing I'll give them a little bit of latitude is the reason that the sniper in the Secret Service didn't shoot right away is his view was obstructed. Now that I believe, those guys that are actually, and women that are actually on the ground are the people that I criticize the least.
Mhm.
In a situation like this should have been set up like you said, when there's a rooftop that needs covered. When I manage events, the technical ones, and I tell people, run this wire a certain way, I go back and check it at an hour or two later, whatever. And I've been accused of not trusting people, but that has nothing to do with it. If it doesn't work, I'm the person who's got to answer for it. So I have the responsibility of making sure that wire was run in the proper way, and it has nothing to do with the person that it was delegated to not trusting them. So I'm 100% on board with you with that. It was a weird day, and
followed by even stranger days.
Stranger days indeed. Let's move on to the next thing, which is, of course, Joe Biden stepping down. I said it. Shaman said it. I got a lot of grief for saying that he was not going to be the nominee. I had people accusing me of degrading his presidency, and this was a Republican tactic to make him look weak, and on and on and on. I know a lot of Democrats and liberals are retaliating, talking about Trump's age. Trump's age is a factor. I won't deny that. However, the issue that I had with Biden was never his age. There's people like Bernie Sanders, for example.
Mhm.
The last time he talked, I mean, he's as sharp as a pin. The last time I heard him talk somewhere. With age often comes, some mental decline, and it's often associated with age, but it's not the only factor. There's people who are 90 years old. There were some veterans here recently for the anniversary of D-Day who were 100 years old, and hearing them speak, it was just absolutely incredible. Obviously, these guys are not the norm, but there's a lot of people in their 30s, 40s, and 50s who, for whatever reason, aren't as sharp as they were when they were 25 years old. So it's not always directly associated with age. But nonetheless, Trump is at this point an older candidate, to be sure.
Yeah.
So it is a factor. We can't ignore it completely. I would have to say, in all fairness, Trump isn't the same guy that he was in 2016, but he's certainly functional.
Yeah.
Um, he gives
Yeah,
good speech.
standing up and pumping his fist in the air.
Yeah, getting shot is, and even if it's just your ear, is having a bullet come that close to you is yeah, I would have a hard time with that. I might want to take a day or two off, but he apparently didn't. He was right back on it.
Yeah.
The only thing I would say, I had this discussion recently. I had a good friend of mine, Lori Spencer, on the show last week, and she's a big Trump person now. And she and I got to talking about that convention. I was really hopeful that the branding of Trump and the branding of the Republicans was going to change. That a little bit more about unity, a little bit more about soft talking, and that's not to say you can't be aggressive or poke jokes at your opponent. That's part of politics. But I was hoping that he was going to allow people who might have said after the shooting, "Okay, maybe I'll give this guy a chance. Let me hear what this guy's all about." And while the curiosity factor was high, I was hoping for a really great speech. Now I know his supporters say that speech was fantastic, but it wasn't. He started out really well when he talked about the shooting. Uh, Paying homage to the dead firefighter was a very good thing to do.
Yeah.
And then he started to go off script. My understanding, if what I read or found out was true, that original speech was supposed to be about 3,000 words. It ended up being 12,000.
Jesus.
Yeah, it was an hour and a half long. And let me tell you, that last half hour, I started, I was looking at my phone. I was doing other things. It wasn't inspiring. It wasn't funny. He had some funny moments. He had some policy issues in there. But for something to go on that long, you got to have something really, it's either really entertaining or it's really informative or it's something. It's not just a bunch of bloviating about, crooked Joe Biden and then crazy Nancy Pelosi and all the stuff that he would do at any other campaign
Yeah.
stop.
Yeah.
He had an opportunity there to reach millions upon millions of people and bring them into the fold that he might not have had, and it didn't happen. Your opinion about all that? How do you
I don't want
feel?
to hear anybody speak for an hour and a half. I don't care who the hell they are.
Yeah.
I mean, just an hour and a half straight? No, I don't want to hear an interview. Like my podcasts, every once in a blue moon, it might go to 50 minutes, but it's two people talking about
Yeah.
diverse, topics. But I really try to shut it down at that point because, I don't want to hear anybody for that long. I think that Trump, probably started out with the speech that he intended to give, and when you felt him drop off from that powerful, like, opening that he had is when he stopped memorizing what he wanted to say, and then he just started speaking. And, that's a shame because it was a great opportunity to really bring everybody together, although it would have been spun and twisted 10 different ways from Sunday no matter what he did, but
Yeah.
he'll have plenty of opportunities to speak. He may have been, what a lot of people don't seem to realize is that although he's pushing forward, he has to have a little bit of trauma. Regardless of, like, a lot of people are like, "Oh, he barely got hit." You know what? Let me shoot you right next to your fucking ear
Yeah.
and then see how you feel afterwards, especially if it's a surprise from a kid with all this, protection that's supposed to be around you, and all of a sudden, your end of life is right there. It's actually it was a very traumatic thing that happened to him. He didn't need to get shot directly in the head for it to be trauma-inducing.
Yeah.
There may have been a little bit of that because what'll happen is adrenaline will spike, and for a couple of days you feel okay, and then all of a sudden you're like, "Ooh," like, so
Yeah.
I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah, we'll find out in time. Some of the campaign speeches that I caught over the past few days on cable news. Of course, now all the events are going to be indoors only from here forward, and that's very understandable. I will give the Secret Service this amount of latitude in that in an open air environment with today's technology being where it is, you don't know what is going to happen.
Oh, there's
Um,
things they can do without ever using a gun now if they really wanted
yeah,
to take him out. There's very creative ways to do that.
yeah, and and JFK very prophetically said, if somebody is really crazy enough to trade their life for yours, there's not much you can do to stop them.
Yeah.
And let me go back to the sniper on the roof, and then we'll wrap this one up. The sniper on the roof too. Not only did not have, he was apparently shooting through leaves. There was trees and all that obstructing his view. And here again, that goes back to the setup. Anybody with that kind of a position should have had a full, clear view of all the rooftops around. That's something that should have been detailed out. But the other thing is too is not rushing out to take a shot. It's something you can identify. Had, let's say, for example, an autistic kid got on the roof just because he wanted to take a look at the president and the Secret Service shot him, we'd be having a different conversation here.
Yeah.
So that's the type of thing that you have to put yourself. And I say this about police all the time. They have a split second to make a decision, and then these attorneys and everything comb through all of the evidence and second guess them, study the situation for months on end.
Yeah.
And, they didn't have somebody pointing a gun at them, and they had a split second to make a decision. So I always want to give that, to the people on the ground, because they're the ones that get the blame for everything. And in this situation here, I just don't feel that a lot of those field agents were put in a good position. I know a lot of people have criticized the movements of the team around Trump. The one Secret Service agent in particular didn't seem to be at ease holstering her weapon, which did look odd. I noticed that right away.
Yeah, and I just, it's like, how did that not be, how was that not even known? Like, how can you even call that a Secret Service detail of any kind? Even if there's substitutes, if you can't pull your freaking gun out or put it in the holster. I mean, it was like watching Barney Fife. And, as
Yes,
a woman, I'm like, why do they keep, excuse my French tonight, Billy, but these topics really boil my blood. I swear to God that there is this like cabal of powerful, like old white men who keep sticking women who are not good at their job or who have not earned that position in the roles just so they can throw them off the glass cliff. And, there's this phenomenon of the glass cliff where they'll hire a woman to come in, she fixes everything and they fire her. But I've been talking about this lately. There's like another glass cliff, and that's let's stick the idiot up there so that you can say women can't do the job. There are so many women, badass women from the Navy and the Air Force who could have just put all of them to shame. Why aren't those people protecting our former and sitting president?
That's a great point. Yeah, that's a great point. I know there's some people online saying that, men and women are cut out for different things. And to a point, that's true. I mean, if you're going to play middle linebacker in the NFL, you probably need to be a man. But there's other things that women are very good at as well. I kind of think in certain situations, I think women have a better intuition a lot of times. I don't know if you would agree with me on that, but I think
I believe there should be somebody on a Secret Service detail that's an intuitive like myself, because I smell bad intentions from a mile off, and I'm not distracted by being responsible for holding a gun. And I think that would be a great part of a detail. I think they might catch some situations more before they turn into this. But come on, Secret Service detail should be able to holster and unholster a gun like lightning. It's absurd. Yes. I mean, this is not about being a woman, although if you're protecting someone, you should be at least as tall as them, period. That is not about being male or female. And you should be able to, handle your weapon.
Yes,
Crazy.
I would agree with that. Obviously, Biden stepped down from the candidacy, did not step down from the presidency. Yeah. There are those Republicans who are saying that he should resign if he can't run. I don't necessarily think that's true. There's a lot of people that set their retirement date for next year. They're fully capable of working until next year, but they're not going to work another 10. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that it's necessarily true that if Joe Biden doesn't want to run again, which would mean a whole nother actually 5-year cycle, this would take him clear through 2029. I can understand why somebody wouldn't want to do that, but they can easily serve out the next few months. I mean, he's been in there for 3.5 years already.
He's been comatose for the last 2 years. What's 6 more months going to hurt us now that everybody knows?
Yeah. And I would not be in a big hurry if I was a Republican to get him out of there. And I'll tell you why.
No, because Kamala will end up being the president, and that'll make being the next president much easier.
Yes. And I was going to say, I would not want to be running against the sitting president, especially if by then she is perceived as capable. That would be, you're much better off with Joe at the top, running
Yeah.
against an unknown variable here with Kamala because she hasn't been the top person yet. And you don't know what she's going to do. Having that little bit of mystery is something that the Republicans should want to keep. Now it's
Well,
different. Go
I
ahead.
actually thought about that because there's been all this talk about, oh, look, Kamala waste $100 million. And I'm like, at first you want to say, like, oh my God, that could give her a chance to win. But it would also, it's also going to increase the exposure of her to potential voters,
Yeah.
which if she continues the way she's been behaving for the last whatever years, that will actually help the Republicans.
Mhm.
It can't, I don't think it's going to hurt tremendously more because I don't think you're going to turn a lot more people towards a party that has lied through their fucking teeth for
Yeah.
2 or 3 years. They've been
Absolutely.
lying through their teeth. They've literally tricked the American people and the voters into not having rights over who the Democratic candidate should be. And if they're going to be able to turn people using ads, which are not very effective these days,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I may have to
Well,
leave America.
yeah. Well, the money helps in a lot of things, and it helps organize events and things like
Yeah.
that. And let me tell you, the as a marketing person yourself, and as we've talked about branding on this show, if you're a Republican, don't underestimate the ability for them to spit and shine up this image of Kamala Harris. Don't underestimate it.
Oh, I know.
Okay.
They're gonna whip out all the
Um,
marketing guns.
Yes, absolutely. I don't know if you know who this person is. This person is on X. She's on a number of different social media platforms. Her name's Esty, and she does an absolute killer impression of Kamala Harris. I mean, it is just absolutely killer. Let me play you just the sample.
Oh, yeah, let's see it. I love, SNL's Kamala skits. They're hilarious.
I'm telling you, this person here is as good as any of them. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't mind getting her on the podcast for just a short little thing. I think
That'd
she'd
be
be a lot of.
funny.
That would be a fun thing to talk to. Here she is.
We could
Well. I knew this day would come. I knew it would come, And I felt it in my ovaries. And I'll tell you something. I didn't think that sticking all those needles in that Biden doll would help, but here I
am. She's funny. She's on X.
she just needs a wig, a Kamala wig,
Yeah.
and some wind.
Yeah, she's at Mommy RN88 on X if you want to check her out. And for those of you on the live stream, I'll put her account up one more time. I might try to reach out to her, get her on the podcast. Funny girl. Okay. Image. Kamala Harris. What's your first reaction?
She's not likable. They may be able to repackage her and tell her what to say, but she was never likable for a couple of reasons. One, she's not there for the right reasons. You can see it in her behavior. And look, I realize I sound judgmental, but I've been watching her for several years, and I honestly don't think that she would have ever run for president if she could have avoided it. I think this was really about her image. I think that's really what most of her career has been about. I think it shows in the lack of depth that she has in a lot of topics. And the way that she's shown up to events, like she's entering a party as the party girl, that is the impression she has left me with. I could give a flying fig what color she is. I do not care if she's African American, if she's Indian, if she's white. I do not care. What I care about is the fact that she's sliding into this role as somebody who never really wanted to be president in the first place, and it's being handed to her on a silver platter, and yet she's inept in so many ways, and does not represent America well on the world stage. Not to mention, she's a raging liberal, and we've had enough of if people keep forgetting, Biden may have been the president, but she's been around the whole time that the economy has been collapsing, and whether people want to believe it or not, Our rents have gone up 50%. Our homes have gone up, 20 to 40%. Our food has gone up 30 to 50%. People are getting crushed in this country and they need new leadership. They
Yeah.
need people who will actually deal with the problems and not distract people with pointing fingers about, poor immigrants or whatever their new, like, here, let me throw you guys a bone and let you go chase it so that we can distract from the fact that we actually have very serious issues. The
Yes.
dollar, I mean, like, there's a lot going on. The American economy is in serious trouble, and we need people who actually understand the economy. Is certainly better than Bidenomics has.
Yeah. I would agree she has a likability factor. Johnny Carson once said the talent is important, but likability is 90% of the game. And that's something that a lot of entertainers forget today. And I know they want to make their social warrior statement, but they can come off as very unlikable, and
Yeah.
that is not good when you have a public image. And go ahead, you were going to say something.
Yeah, it's something that you just brought to mind, and I was posting yesterday, or maybe it was this morning. I will not be gaslit, emotionally blackmailed, called a racist because I'm calling someone's qualifications into, to be looked over, and that I don't think that they're appropriate. And that's what the Democratic Party is really good at. They're very narcissistic in the way that they treat people who disagree with them. I'm not saying the Republicans can't be that way, but I have yet to have a single Republican person stop supporting my businesses or attending my events or engaging me with a conversation because they didn't agree with what I said as an independent. And I'm very liberal in many ways. I have had numerous Democratic people come after me because I expressed my personal opinion.
Yeah.
And that to me is very narcissistic behavior. And she really is very emblematic of that. It's this judgment call on other people, as a condescending tone that is really annoying. Sorry.
No, it's all good. All good points. Very much appreciated. That's a good perspective. I do believe the branding is going to work on her to a degree. She's got some good things going for her. I don't particularly like some of the very, to me, crude depictions that I've seen online, very offensive things I've seen online depicting her likeness in sexual positions, degrading situations.
What
That's
algorithm are you in?
well, that's
Teasing.
yes, that's the spirit we're in now. I mean, if you don't like somebody, caricatures and cartoons have been a part of politics for a long time, and it's one thing to do a funny characterization that makes a political point. It's another thing to depict someone on their knees performing some sort of an act. That serves no purpose other than to be mean and to attack her sexuality. I mean, just like the young woman who spoke at the convention last week was referred to as a slut by some conservative commentators, and here again, it's attacking her sexual behavior. Women are much more the targets of that than men are. I don't care what anybody says.
Women are almost always the targets of that kind of judgment. A man's patted on the back and told he's a real man.
Yeah. So I don't like those kind of depictions. But that being said, I'm not a big fan of her. I would not engage in that. You'll never see anything like that in any of my material. There's plenty about her history that's fair game, and like you said, some of the liberal notions are certainly fair game. Oddly enough, a lot of liberals don't like her because of her time as a prosecutor. She liked to prosecute criminals and keep them in prison, which is something that I like. I was like,
you're so bad.
That was before liberals, changed. They had the attitude that criminals just need to be understood, and we shouldn't prosecute them because that's mean. That was before all that bullshit started. But anyway, that's kind of my take on her. I know there's people that say she was unfair with her prosecutions and all that. And I'm not getting into all that, but here again, I just find it odd how things that are normally on your side at one point have a tendency to flip against you.
I made a comment about her saying that, we don't need another president who's going to make one gaffe on the international stage after another, and that I didn't think she was qualified for the job. And I had a guy on X come after me. He came after my job. You call yourself a director of ethics. What do you know about ethics? And how could you judge her? How dare you judge her? Who are you to judge a politician? I'm like, a communications pioneer who's owned 2 agencies and invented influencer marketing and brand communications and personal branding. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you not know that?
Yeah.
It's like I didn't say that to him, but I was like, you can tell he's angry because I thought he actually knew this about me, but it wasn't even it was like the delusion. I expressed an actual opinion based on what I've seen with my own 2 eyes repeatedly happen over the last few years.
Yeah.
And I really hope that we keep that kind of like personal attacks out of try to this year,
hmm
because it's not going to help anything. It's just
Yeah.
distraction.
Yeah. Speaking of, there's a thing now. Democrats are trying to walk back this border czar. She was never a czar. She was labeled that. Blah 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 blah. It was very clear that she was responsible for the border. You can label it anything you want.
I remember the
Uh,
news stories.
yeah, and apparently, some folks in Congress made that official that was her. That is a legitimate thing for her. Regardless, her and Biden both, the number is 7-8 million, depending on what studies you look at over the past 3.5 years. Closing the border now. I mean, Biden made the comment. Well, first of all, he made 2 comments that I didn't like on his farewell speech. He made the comment that influx now is lower than it has ever been. Since yes, because everybody's here. The barn door has been left open. Now we have to deal with them here, and the FBI and everybody is in total agreement. This is a big security risk. The second thing I didn't like about Joe Biden, we can't get into it too much because I don't know exactly what he meant, but he inferred that the Supreme Court of the United States needs reform. Now, this has been something that the left wing has been talking about for a long time. The fact of the matter is you can't keep playing this game. If you hate Trump and his appointments and all this other stuff, that's fine. But he didn't try to change the structure of the court. All right. And this is something that I've noticed the left likes to do. They like to change the rules when things aren't going their way.
Oh, yeah.
Whether it's the Electoral College or whether it's the Supreme Court or whatever. And my only thing about that is, first of all, I don't think you should tamper with that. And second of all, don't be changing things. This is a classic example of be careful what you want. You just might get it. Just because somebody you like is taking advantage of a certain situation now and you don't like it and you want to change it, that doesn't mean that the next person you don't like is really going to be gunning for you. I would leave things in terms of our structure the way that it is, and it's been working fine. Getting back to the border. A lot of Palestinian refugees, other people that are Hamas supporters, and this includes a lot of United States citizens. We're in major cities, mainly Washington, D.C. and New York. I want to be clear here with the Netanyahu speech to Congress. I want to be very clear here. I am a free speech advocate, and I do believe that burning an American flag, I know a lot of people are going to get upset with me with this, burning an American flag, and the Supreme Court has ruled on this as well, is a form of free speech. But there's a caveat to this. That's your own flag. I go to the store, I buy an American flag, I burn it, and as long as I am not doing it in a way that creates a danger or a fire risk or a fire hazard or whatever, it is a type of free speech. Now, with that being said, that does not mean I can do what these people did, which is go somewhere, see an American flag up on a pole, take somebody else's American flag and burn it. That is vandalism.
And theft.
That's no different than taking anything else on the property and burning it or destroying it. All the vandalism that went on, all the spray painting, all the dumping stuff onto statues and all this other kind of thing. That is vandalism that has to be fixed. It is, if you are that upset about being here and about what was going, why are you here? I know that sounds like a terrible thing. Conservatives get called out all the time when they say things like this. But if I went to Iran And I went to Tehran and I held a demonstration there about how terrible it was. The question would be, why did I go there? So anyway, what's your take on this on the last set of I would call riots, small riots? They weren't riots that were real bad. I mean, as far as I know, they weren't turning over cars. But they did have to blockade the White House. They had to do some other things. Yeah. So what's your
I despise people who justify destroying or affecting landmarks because they're too lazy to get a really big sign. Get off your lazy ass and put up a big sign, or tie some sheets together, for God's sake. Stop attacking, beautiful monuments that give people joy and celebrate the work of people who are most likely long dead. Don't stop dishonoring people just so you can tell your friends that you were challenge the man. And I'm very much about dealing with social issues, but I believe about dealing with social issues by taking them from sound bites to solutions, not damaging property.
Yeah.
And causing vandalism, all because I want to go celebrate, glorify myself with a bunch of other people who are currently lost. And I'm not saying everybody who protests is, but people who damage it, things like that, they're usually lost.
Yes. It's going to be an interesting couple weeks leading up to the Democratic convention now. So we shall see what we shall see, which has often been said. I sound like Kamala Harris now. What is... Here we go.
That's the thing. That's the thing. Like, I can't even imitate it. I said this last week. Like, I simply, and it's as if somebody has said to her, "That is brilliant. Say it in every speech." Because I've seen like multiple versions of her having the same bizarre, like loop-de-loop that makes no sense to anybody. And like, I'm a philosopher, so I love stuff that you have to untwist, but I can't untwist what she's twisting.
Yes. What is. What was.
And
what will be was and
always.
Will be again. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Shaman, tell us what you're up to lately before we say goodnight.
Yeah. So on August 21st at Newhouse in New York City, Newhouse Madison Square, I'm doing an in-person sit-down conversation to talk about a new American dream and how to create an American dream for our young people to climb. They need a new ladder. The other one has been choked by corporate greed. And so I'm very excited about that event. On the 21st, you can go to my website and sign up for my newsletter to get an invitation. And then on September 8th, I'm performing at Caveat Club in New York City. So exciting stuff.
Awesome. You can check out the Billy D's podcast on your favorite podcasting platform. We are on them all, as far as I know. Certainly all the major ones. Coming up in the next week or so, I got it. First of all, it's been a while since I have had a guest actually in my studio, and I'm going to have that coming up in about maybe even over the weekend. I'm going to be talking to an attorney, and we are going to be talking about things you should do and not do right after an accident. So that's going to be a good one. Now, here again, this is general information used to, this is not a substitute for legal advice. We always say that. But it's some things that you should be aware of, depending on what state you live in, and some things that you should be aware of just in case something like that happens. And sooner or later, it happens to most of us. I'm also going to be talking to a creator in New Zealand. Now, I won't be flying him here, but he's an interesting guy. So we're going to be talking to that person as well. A lot of interesting stuff coming up. You can follow me on X, which was at one time, not too long ago, called Twitter, at Billy D's, and we're posting stuff there all the time. There's a group of creators. Shaman, of course, is one of them. We share each other's content there, and there's a lot of things that you can gain by following us, not only keeping up on our shows and our content, but current events and certain trends. We try to stay on top of it all, so do check us out. All right, that's going to do it for this evening. Hopefully we'll have a quiet weekend. I think everybody needs a little bit of a break. Hopefully no major news happening this weekend. Hopefully everybody enjoy your summer weekend, and thank you very much for listening, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Billy D's podcast. Follow Billy D's on X @BillyD's for updates about the program.